Welcome back to Behind Your Mind. Let me start with a question that may have crossed your mind before. Can someone with narcissistic personality disorder ever truly change? Maybe you're wondering this because you've had a close relationship with someone who always needed to be the center of attention, who twisted your words, who made you feel invisible, or who never admitted fault. And now you're wondering, was that narcissism? And if it was, is there any hope for growth? For healing? This episode is for you. Whether you're trying to understand a loved one, healing from past wounds, or maybe even asking yourself some tough questions. Let's explore the complicated intersection of narcissism, change, and hope, with honesty, insight, and compassion. Narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, isn't just arrogance or self-centeredness. It's a complex and deeply rooted psychological condition, a defense mechanism built over time, often formed in response to deep emotional wounds. At its core, NPD is marked by an inflated sense of self-importance, a fragile self-esteem, and a profound difficulty in relating to others with genuine empathy. Now here's where it gets interesting. Beneath the surface of grandiosity and entitlement lies something far more vulnerable, a person who may be deeply afraid of being exposed, rejected, or seen as not enough. You see, narcissistic behaviors often develop not out of confidence, but from fear. A fear of being average. A fear of losing control. A fear of being seen for who they truly are, flaws and all. But, and this is crucial, not everyone who shows narcissistic traits has full-blown NPD. And not every difficult person in your life is a narcissist. True NPD, as defined in the DSM-5, includes at least 5 of the following. Grandiosity, need for admiration, lack of empathy, envy of others, arrogance, a sense of entitlement, interpersonally exploitative behavior, preoccupation with fantasies of success or power, and belief that they are unique or special. Here's the truth. Change is hard for anyone. But it's especially hard for someone with NPD, not because they're incapable, but because of how the disorder protects itself. NPD acts like emotional armor. It filters out criticism. It deflects blame. It builds a wall so tall that self-reflection, the foundation of personal growth, becomes nearly impossible. Let's break it down. In therapy, for change to occur, a person has to say, I made a mistake. I may not have all the answers. My actions have hurt others. But these are exactly the kinds of admissions that threaten the narcissistic ego. They bring up shame, vulnerability, and the risk of rejection, feelings the narcissistic mind is desperate to avoid. So instead, what do we often see? Defensiveness, blame shifting, gaslighting, emotional withdrawal, or even rage. And yet, there's still hope. Because psychology isn't just about identifying patterns, it's about creating space for growth, even in the most unlikely places. Here's something powerful to hold on to. NPD isn't a life sentence. But the process of change starts with a single, pivotal moment, insight. The moment someone with NPD begins to question their behavior, starts to feel the cost of their relationships, or notices the pain they cause, that moment is the crack in the armor. We call this insight-oriented awakening. And yes, it's rare but not impossible. A growing number of therapists are now trained in treating narcissism with a trauma-informed lens. That means they approach narcissism not as pure manipulation, but as a maladaptive coping mechanism. They ask, what pain are you hiding? What wounds haven't healed? What identity are you protecting? In therapy, this often involves building self-awareness without triggering deep shame, developing empathy by understanding others' perspectives in a safe way, setting realistic goals that don't threaten the narcissistic sense of identity, building tolerance for vulnerability. These are not quick fixes. They take years, but they are absolutely possible. Let me share a story. There's a client. Let's call him Mark. Mark was successful, charming, and incredibly confident on the outside. but his relationships were a trail of broken trust. He couldn't take criticism. He always had to be right. He came to therapy not because he thought he had NPD, but because his wife had just left him, and he didn't understand why. At first, every session was a performance. He'd blame others, boast about achievements, downplay any flaws. But over time, through gentle, persistent therapy, a shift began. He had a moment where he broke down genuinely and said, "I don't think anyone really knows me. I've been pretending for so long, I don't even know who I am." That was the crack. And through it came years of slow, difficult, but very real growth. Did Mark become a completely different person overnight?
No.
But did he become more self-aware, more accountable, and more open to feedback? Absolutely. Change doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means becoming more authentic. This is a question I hear often. Can I help them? And here's the hard answer. Only if they want to help themselves. You cannot force someone into self-awareness. You cannot fix someone's deep emotional wounds for them. What you can do is set boundaries. Offer compassion, not enablement. Speak truth, not silence. Support is possible, but it must be grounded in your own safety, mental health, and self-respect. If you're in a relationship with someone who shows signs of NPD, the best thing you can do is educate yourself. Get support from a therapist or coach. Practice radical boundaries. Let go of the fantasy that love alone will change them. This may sound strange, but one of the most healing forces in this process is compassion. Not blind compassion that excuses abuse, but informed compassion that sees the pain beneath the armor. Compassion doesn't mean staying. It doesn't mean tolerating manipulation or harm. It means acknowledging that NPD is a disorder, and like all mental health conditions, it deserves to be approached with curiosity and care. Because the moment we strip narcissism of its humanity, we close the door to healing, for them and for ourselves. So, can someone with NPD change? Yes, but it's rare, and it's hard, and it has to start from within. It takes therapy,
Time.
accountability, and most importantly, willingness. If you're someone who has been hurt by narcissistic behavior, your healing matters. And if you're someone who's wondering if your own behavior is harming others, your honesty is the first step toward change. Here at Behind Your Mind, we believe in honest conversations. We believe in hope, but also in reality. And we believe that growth is possible, even when it's messy. Thank you for joining me in this deep exploration. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your story. Have you ever wondered if someone in your life can change? Or maybe you've been on your own journey of transformation. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, and if this episode helped, feel free to subscribe or share it with someone who might need it. And as always, this podcast is not a substitute for professional help. If you're navigating relationships involving NPD, or if you're unsure about your own mental health, please reach out to a licensed therapist. You're not alone, and support is available. And hey, if this episode helped you understand yourself or someone else just a little better, please consider subscribing, liking, or just sharing this with someone who might need it. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and remember, I'm right here with you, behind your mind.